Welcome to Module 3. In this module, you will learn about sharing the road. Maintaining a safe distance between you and the car in front of you is one of the most important things to do when you share the road with other vehicles. This following distance should be at minimum 3 seconds worth of travel. This is known as the 3-second rule. In order to find your following distance, choose a clearly visible object some distance ahead of you, such as a sign or tree. When the car you are following passes that object, count off the seconds as 1001, 2002, 3003, and so on until you pass the same object. If you pass the object before you get to 3 seconds, you are following too closely.
You can follow the 3-second rule to determine a good following distance. When you're driving, watch the vehicle in front of you drive past a fixed point, such as a street light, and start counting 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000. If you reach a fixed point before reaching 3 1000, you're following too closely.
Following a vehicle too closely, or tailgating, is the cause of most rear-end collisions. In adverse weather, or if the road is in poor condition, you will need a longer following distance, such as a 6 second or 8 seconds. Since it's harder to slow down quickly when the roads are wet, slippery, or uneven. The first rule for a safe and legal turn is to move into the proper lane, followed by signaling your intent to turn. This will help other drivers know what to expect. When turning or changing lanes, signaling is required 200 feet before turning or changing lanes when posted speed limit is 50 miles per hour or more. It is required to signal 300 feet before turning or changing lanes. Sharing the road. The rules which determine right-of-way are the same nationwide. The following is the hierarchy of who has the right-of-way. We will go into further detail as well as point out some exceptions and special cases in a moment. First, emergency vehicles. Second, funeral processions. Third, pedestrians. Fourth, vehicles turning left with a protected left turn arrow. Fifth, vehicles going straight. Sixth, vehicles turning right. Seventh, vehicles turning left. Eighth, vehicles making a right turn at a red light. When 2 or more vehicles on different roadways arrive at a 4-way stop intersection at the same time, the vehicles on the left should yield to the vehicles on the right. When drivers reach a 4-way stop intersection at different times, the driver who arrived first has the right-of-way and should be the first to go. After the first driver goes, the right-of-way belongs to the vehicle to the right, just as in the first scenario. When 2 vehicles on different roadways reach an uncontrolled intersection at the same time wherein no traffic signs posted, the vehicle on the left should yield to the vehicle on the right. When 2 cars are stopped at an intersection with one driver signaling a left turn and the other car going straight ahead, the person who wants to turn left should wait for the person who is going straight to clear the intersection. Once it is clear, the driver turning left is allowed to turn.
Here are some common mistakes when making left turns. Advancing when light is green but not yielding to oncoming traffic will result in a collision if there's an oncoming vehicle. Advancing when light is green but failing to shoulder check for pedestrians at the crosswalk, which results in a situation of failing to yield to pedestrians and oncoming vehicles.
Turning too wide as a result of excessive speed may cause a collision. Also, a potential hazard is created by drivers who accelerate towards the intersection to beat a flashing hand signal. At a high speed, the vehicle is unable to turn into the left lane. Instead, it enters into the right lane, forcing the other vehicle to take evasive actions.
Turning left at the same time as a right-turning vehicle is turning into the adjacent lane. This situation creates crash potential. A large vehicle waiting to make a left turn from the opposite side may obstruct your view of oncoming vehicles. Taking a risk and turning left while unsure of oncoming traffic may result in a collision. Finally, following another vehicle into the intersection is not permitted. Only one vehicle should advance into the intersection at a time. The correct approach to make a left turn with a dedicated left turn lane is to enter dedicated left turn lane as soon as possible. Observe signals and shoulder check. If the traffic signal shows an arrow indicated turn, proceed when arrow is green. If there's no arrow, advance into the intersection, keeping vehicle wheels straight, yield to oncoming vehicles and pedestrians at crosswalks, and then proceed when safe into the left lane. The correct approach to make a left turn without a dedicated left turn lane is to wait for the green light in the left lane. When light is green, advance into the intersection, keeping vehicle wheels straight, and proceed when oncoming vehicles have cleared the intersection and pedestrians have cleared the crosswalk.
When being approached by an emergency vehicle using audible and visual signals such as lights and sirens, the law requires motorists to immediately do the following: pull to the right side of the road and allow the emergency vehicle to pass. In some cases, you may need to come to a complete stop to allow the emergency vehicle to pass. If stopped at an intersection with two-way traffic, remain stopped until the emergency vehicle passes. If making a left turn at an intersection and emergency vehicle is not visible, complete your turn and pull over to the right immediately.
Time is the enemy in any emergency. You can help emergency responders get to the scene as quickly as possible by following the rules of the road. When an ambulance, police car, or fire truck is behind you with their lights and siren activated, clear the intersection. If driving on a road with one or two lanes, move your vehicle to the right side of the road. Remember to use your turn signal. If driving on a road with 3 or more lanes, clear the intersection and move your vehicle to the nearest side of the road. Remember to use your turn signal. When in the center lane, drive your vehicle to the right side of the road. Come to a complete stop and wait for the emergency vehicle to pass you. Shoulder check to make sure there are no more emergency vehicles or other drivers approaching before you continue driving. Be considerate of other drivers as you re-enter the traffic flow. Remember to use your turn signal. Keep at least 150 meters between your vehicle and the emergency vehicles that just passed you.
Motorists encountering a funeral procession must yield the right-of-way to all vehicles in the funeral procession. The funeral procession has the same right-of-way as emergency vehicles, which means they don't have to stop for red lights. You may not drive between vehicles in an organized funeral procession, except when required to do so by a law enforcement officer, and you may not join a funeral procession for the purpose of securing the right-of-way or attempt to pass any vehicle in an organized funeral procession, except where a passing lane has been specifically provided. Wait until the procession is completely passed before you rejoin traffic. You will recognize that the procession is over because the last car will have its hazards on. A driver must come to a complete stop and yield the right-of-way to pedestrians in the following situations. When a pedestrian is in a marked crosswalk, on school days when children are in close proximity to a school zone crosswalk, when a pedestrian is in an unmarked crosswalk on the driver's side of the roadway and there are no traffic control signals. When making a turn at any intersection, motorists should be aware that even if there is no crosswalk painted on the road, every intersection is legally considered a crosswalk. When making a lawful turn on a red light after coming to a complete stop, at a stop sign or flashing red signal at an intersection, when a pedestrian enters a crosswalk before the traffic light changes, when a pedestrian is walking with a green light and walking person symbol or a walk signal, when a pedestrian is leaving or entering a street or highway. A driver must use caution when passing other vehicles. On a two-lane highway, the driver should have excellent visibility of oncoming traffic, and the opposite lane should be free of oncoming traffic for a distance great enough to permit passing. When passing a vehicle on a two-lane road, you must return to your lane before you come within 200 feet of any oncoming vehicle. You may not pass another vehicle by driving on the shoulder of the road. Do not return to your original lane until you can see the entire vehicle you have just passed in your central rear view mirror. When passing on a two-lane, two-way road is not allowed on the following: in an area marked with a "Do Not Pass" or "No Passing Zone" sign and a solid yellow line on your side of the center of the roadway, on a hill or curve where it is not possible to see oncoming vehicles, within 100 feet of an intersection or railroad crossing, in school zones or near school buses that are loading or unloading passengers, when the view is blocked within 100 feet of any bridge, viaduct, or tunnel, when a vehicle has stopped at a crosswalk or intersection to allow a pedestrian to cross, in a construction zone. All construction zones are no passing zones. With one exception, when a school bus activates its flashing lights and extended its stop arm, motorists on either side of the road have to come to a complete stop, in both same-way and oncoming traffic, on either a two-lane, two-way street or a four-lane, two-way street. All vehicles on the road must stop when a school bus comes to a stop, lowers its arm, lets passengers exit the bus. They must remain stopped until the bus turns off the flashing lights and the stop arm is lowered. Failure to stop or disregard a school bus stop arm can result in a Class C misdemeanor considered reckless driving. Fines may result with up to 180 days in jail and fines up to $1,000. The only exception for motorists having to come to a complete stop if a school bus has stopped and extended its arm is if it's on a four-lane, two-way road. In that case, motorists traveling in the same direction of traffic as the bus will have to stop, but oncoming traffic does not. However, oncoming drivers should slow down and look for children crossing the road before proceeding. Before a school bus comes to a complete stop, the school bus driver will warn at least 100 feet or 200 feet in rural areas in advance of a stop by flashing amber and red lights on the front and rear of the bus. When encountering any railroad crossing, whether it is a controlled railroad crossing which features lights and gates, or approaching an uncontrolled railroad crossing that has no lights or gates, you should slow down and look as far down the track as you can in both directions for oncoming trains or railroad equipment. Proceed across the railroad crossing with caution. First, we'll address how to drive when you are at a controlled railroad crossing that has lights and gates. You must stop if the crossing gate is lowered or the signal is flashing. You must stop between 15 and 50 feet away from the crossing if there is a stop sign, the electric signal is flashing, or the crossing gate is lowered. Proceed across the tracks only after the gate is all the way up, the lights are no longer flashing, and you have visually checked both ways for any additional oncoming trains or railroad equipment. What if the railroad crossing has no lights, warning signs, or gates? You should slow down, look, and listen for signs of a train. Only proceed when it is safe to do so. Before crossing the tracks, make sure that there is enough room on the other side of the tracks so that you do not end up stuck on the tracks in the path of the train. If you are not certain that enough space exists, don't cross the track. When following a large vehicle, stay out of its blind spots. Either slow down so that you are no longer in its blind spot, or speed up and pass it. If you want to pass a truck, you should do so on the left side. Position your vehicle so the driver can see it in their left side mirror. Pay close attention to the large vehicle's turn signals and give large vehicles plenty of room to maneuver and make turns. Large vehicles make wide right turns and sometimes leave an open space to their right just before they turn. Always allow extra space for large vehicles, since size and weight affect a vehicle's ability to maneuver and stop. Motorcycles have the same rights and responsibilities as any other motor vehicle on the road. Because they are not as large as other vehicles, and the riders are more susceptible to injury should they be involved in a collision, it is important to pay special attention to motorcycles and allow them some leeway, especially in bad weather, or when road conditions are poor. More than 50% of all motorcycle collisions occur at intersections. The most common collision occurs when an oncoming automobile makes a left turn in front of a motorcycle. Although there may be enough room in the traffic lane for an automobile and a motorcyclist, remember that the motorcyclist needs the room to maneuver safely and is entitled to the entire lane. Do not share the lane. Allow at least 3 to 4 seconds of following distance when behind a motorcycle.
Drivers should also be cautious around motorcycles. Motorcyclists need to slow down when they cross railroad tracks, drive around sewer covers, or drive on roads that have potholes. These uneven road surfaces could cause a loss of control if the motorcyclist doesn't slow down or change lanes to avoid them. Increase your following distance to keep these roadway users safe.
Drivers must yield the right-of-way to bicycles according to the same rules that apply to other drivers. When passing a bicycle, drivers should keep a minimum of 3 feet between their vehicle and the cyclist. Cyclists have incurred injuries as motorists open their car doors to exit without looking behind them, leaving the oncoming cyclist no time to maneuver around the open car door. To combat this, some states passed a law in 2019 that requires drivers to exit their car by using the Dutch reach. The Dutch reach means that drivers exiting their vehicles will cross their right arm over their body to open their door, which will encourage them to look in their side mirror and behind them for cyclists before opening their door. You will learn more about the Dutch reach on Module 4, Laws, Limits, and Zones. That would be all for Module 3. Module 3 is complete. Please click on Mark as Completed button to finalize and proceed to Module 4 by clicking Next Lesson. Test your understanding by clicking and answering the questions below.